I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. Before we proceed further, Councillor Dubanow, would you provide the land acknowledgement, please?
Yes, Your Worship. We acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people. We are beneficiaries of ancient agreements such as the dish with one spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two rural wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations and all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let's be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island.
Thank you very much. Would you all please rise for the invocation?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all.
Thank you. And Mr. Clerk, the roll call, please.
Your Worship, Councillor Flagg is absent this evening and sends his regrets. All other members of council are present.
Thank you very much. We don't have any addendum this evening. Just a couple of announcements. This Saturday, November the 22nd, is the Santa Claus Parade. Starts at 5 o'clock, but I think you're supposed to be starting to gather between 3 and 4. So anyone who wishes to participate should be there on time. The mayor will be there on time. MIAC, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, is going to be participating this year. And I understand that the youth will be participating along with the members of council, and we'll have a municipal vehicle driven by one of the town employees, thanks to our CAO. So it should be very interesting. This will provide an opportunity for us to utilize the youth as cover, in case anybody. We'll be throwing out candy. Who knows what will be thrown our way. But no, it should be a good time, and looks like the weather's going to be very good as well. I also want to announce and welcome the new town solicitor, Phil Riley, who is sitting behind Councillor Noyes, beside Jonathan Jansen. Welcome to Fort Erie. Had an opportunity to briefly chat with Mr. Riley, and I think he'll fit in quite nicely. Okay, that takes us to declarations of pecuniary interest. There being none, there are a number of upcoming public meetings really related to the 2025 budget. Something that's starting on Monday, November the 25th, which is next Monday. That'll be the capital budget and forecast. Wednesday, December the 4th, we'll be dealing with the water and wastewater operating budget and the user fee analysis. Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, we'll hear from the Fort Erie Public Library with respect to its budget. We'll have an assessment analysis and general levy operating budget that we'll be reviewing. And if necessary, we'll have a further meeting on February the 5th, 2025. Those meetings all are held here in the council chambers. They start at 6 o'clock. Budget bylaws are projected for Monday, December the 2nd, the preliminary capital budget, which is the most important capital items that we'll be dealing with. December the 16th will be the rates and user fees bylaw budget, and February the 24th should be the general levy budget, the general capital budget, and all other budgets associated with our operations. There is a public meeting for the Building Code Act scheduled for December the 2nd, Monday, December the 2nd, starting at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. There is an information report that will be available to the public by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November the 27th. That then takes us to the regional councillor report, and you understand that I control your microphone. Good evening,
you.
Councillor Encina.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. It's only 3 pages tonight.
Some of that isn't going to get past the microphone.
At the regional November 7th budget meeting, Niagara Transit brought forward their budget with added information in regarding their service that was requested. The percentage increase did not change and came in at 5.8%, with no new routes or services that would be added. It will be very interesting to see how NTC will support Fort Erie after raising the fees and fees for service while the routes being unchanged. That will be interesting. I think that we'll be watching that also. At the November 14th budget meeting, Niagara Regional Police had requested over a 15% increase, but after all was said and done, Regional Council accepted 13.18% increase. With the new 28 constables to be hired, it will be interesting to see how many will complement the staff already here in Fort Erie. The water and wastewater budget saw an increase of 12.27% for 2025, and the rates will be developed shortly. I know I didn't write this on my notes. When staff were asked where we would come in at, it was roughly 10% increase. That's as it stands right now. I have been assured that residents at Gilmore Lodge will soon be moving into their new home. The move will take place prior to Christmas into the new location on King Street. The Crescent Road development is also completed, pending a few minor fixes. Residents should be occupying the 18 apartments again before Christmas. For council's information, I requested a report from Public Works regarding the crosswalks by all legions in the region to paint them red or white to address that in recognition of our veterans. I have been in discussion with Public Works staff regarding a hazardous waste day at Fort Erie Bridge Street drop-off site. Excuse me. Rather than a one-day household hazardous waste drop-off day, the region will increase the promotion of what can now be dropped off at the Bridge Street site. Starting in January, a blitz will start on social media along with newspapers and through town communications. A one-day household hazardous waste day would cost upwards of $50,000 plus, depending on the materials that were dropped off. And just for information, the Winter Festival Lights once again returns to the Niagara Parks. It's one of the Canada's largest free outdoor light festival, runs from November 16th to January 5th. Along with the lights, the annual poinsettia show will be showcased at the Flora Show House. At the Queen Victoria Park event stage, renowned children's music artist Chris McCool will be performing free concerts. And that is on Saturday, November 23rd, and so it's Saturday, November 30th. And if you want some information, you can go to the website, and they'll have that for you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Councillor Encina, and I liked how you started with the dreary news, and then it got lighter as you went along. That's, I approve that approach. Any questions of the regional councillor? Councillor Dubanow, then Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Regional Councillor Encina. Thank you very much. It's good to see you here this evening, Tom. Quick question for you. You had mentioned a moment ago the budget increase for the Niagara Regional Police and the number of constables they were looking to hire. You had also mentioned the wastewater budget as well. I believe that there is also a bit of a hiring spree associated with that. Do you know how many employees are looking to hire based on that, what they're looking at for this year?
Councillor Encina.
Through you, Mayor Redekop. Right now, the staff, it's understaffed right now, and it's at the point now where it's becoming dangerous. There are issues right now with water and wastewater. They are running desperately short. There are certain situations now where they have a SCADA system that actually keeps track and monitors. That's not up to speed yet, and they don't have enough people to actually monitor 24/7. And by going in this budget, they are actually going to have somebody else down in Crystal Beach. So it will be monitored, so we shouldn't have the same fiasco that happened last time pending another storm.
It's 20. 20 is the number.
20?
20? Okay.
And that, and like I say, a multitude of upgrades in the systems too. Thank you.
Councillor
And
Dubanow?
if I may, just because we have to ask questions here, it's a question-answer session. With everything that you're facing, how do you keep smiling?
If you don't laugh, you cry.
Councillor Noyes.
Thank you.
Thank you, through you to Councillor Insignia. Just an update on the timeline for Stevensville Road reconstruction and the bridge. Any timeline for that?
Through you, Mayor Redekop, I have been pushing on that one. The design is 95% done, and they are hoping to move ahead with that very shortly from what I'm told. And I will double check again and get back to you.
Okay, when you say move ahead, what does move ahead mean?
From what I gather, the money has been put aside and it's ready for construction. I
Okay.
think the first phase would probably be the bridge, once that's done. And then it'll be all the way from Eagle Street down to Bowen.
Okay, my only concern is that, once again, Ott Road has been put on hold, and that's supposed to be done next year, in 2025, and I don't think we want Stevensville Road and Ott Road being done at the same time. So-
Absolutely.
So just, hopefully there's some, and I don't want you, just coordinate it, but I do not want to see Ott Road and West Main put on hold again for whatever reason. Thank you.
So that's a good point, and it's something that the Director of Infrastructure Services can help to coordinate so that we don't run into that predicament. Anything further, Councillor Noyes? Councillor McDermott?
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. I'm just interested in an update for the Catherine Street pumping station as to where we are.
Through you, Mayor Redekop. They are still at the archaeological stage right now. Money is already there for the expansion. And I will find out and I will get back to you as a timeline as to how long it's going to be.
Anything further? Any other members of council? If not, thank you very much, Councillor Insignia. We appreciate the information. And that takes us into presentations and delegations. And I see that we have a delegation, Larry Graber, the Chair of the Fort Erie Public Library Board. I see that you've brought a number of your friends with you. And I see at least one face that I'm not familiar with, and she's following you. So, I don't know. You're being stalked. You're being stalked.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, councilors, staff, ladies and gentlemen, Jen Kendall, standing beside me, started her working life as a beautician before being converted to working in libraries, where she has been for the past 8 years. She started as a library assistant with the Edmonton Public Library, then worked for the University of Manitoba as a library clerk, graduate research assistant, while completing her master's in library and information services. Following graduation, she was employed as a consultant librarian for the Parkland Regional Library System. In April 2021, she was appointed the director of the Portage La Prairie Regional Library until she started with the Fort Erie Public Library as our new CEO on November the 11th of this year. Portage La Prairie Regional Library's annual report for 2023 was a glowing report for the dedication of their director, Jen Kendall. Just a sample of some of her achievements include obtain grant funds to improve the library facilities, ensure a high level of service in welcoming and accessible environment, foster knowledge, community, and lifelong learning, increase program offerings from educational workshops to cultural events, expansion of collection of books, not only just English, but German and other languages as well, digital resources and multimedia materials. She completed a new strategic plan in 2023 as well. When the Fort Erie Public Library undertook to find a new CEO, a duration of some 6 months to find the best candidate, our research found Jen to have the skills that will greatly benefit both the staff and our library patrons. They include relationship building, team management, research and data analysis, customer service, strategic planning, fundraising, a creative problem solver, and a needs assessment grant writing skills. So please join me in welcoming Jen Kendall, our new CEO for the Fort Erie Public Library. Jen?
I've never had quite a big cheering section before.
Welcome to Fort Erie.
Thank you very much. He did leave off that I have chocolate on my desk at the library, so if you want to stop in and grab one.
Works.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and to meet all of you and see some of you again. Hi, Jim. And then I'm excited to, get to work and see what we can do with the library and make sure it's serving the community to the best of its abilities.
Well, you're taking on a large responsibility. The library is an extremely well-used facility in our community, has a long history of being innovative and meeting the needs of our residents. We have a very good board. I have had an opportunity to meet and work with many of them. You have excellent support from the community. You have a Friends of the Library group. So everything is set for you to do an excellent job here and continue to work with a library that is very much valued in our community. So welcome and good luck in your new venture.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay, congrats. Did you want a copy?
Okay, there are no public meetings this evening, and you folks you're at liberty to leave whenever you wish. You of course can stay for the balance of the meeting if you wish, but not necessary. We've tied Councillor Encina's leg to the floor. There are no public meetings. We have a consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda to be dealt with separately? If not, then Councillor McDermott, you have the resolution for us to
Thank you,
consider the
Worship.
consent
Moved
agenda.
by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen. The council approves the consent agenda as recommended.
Are there any questions or comments with respect to any of the reports? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor. These are just some clarifications. One is on the Bridgeburg Station Downtown Business Improvement Area Board. It talks about, and I think that might just be it says basically that you're not going to nominate a new chair, and you're going to, but you will vote for the new roles in the Santa Parade. So I'm just not.
Yeah, Councillor McDermott, can you respond to that?
I suspect what that means is that our next meeting is pretty much going to be, I believe, the AGM, and they were leaving it to the AGM meeting too. They will have a chair. There's no doubt about that.
So the item number 10 under council representative report makes reference to the election of a new chair. There's also a reference to the Santa Parade, but I presume it means after the Santa Parade there'll be an annual meeting?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Noyes?
Yeah, thank you. That's just a minor correction. In regards to the Community Gaming Corporation, the 11.35, I see that there's new rules and regulations and new compliance requests. I'm just wondering if we can get a copy of that so that we're up to speed on that.
Mr. Clerk, that's something you can circulate to members of council?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor
Yes,
Noyes?
the last one is the 11.3.8, the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. I noticed that they're sponsoring at Happy Jacks, I think $35 per person, but I don't think, but I'm sure that's subsidized. The taxpayers aren't paying the $35 per person, right? People think that they are, but I don't think they are.
People think what?
People think that the $35 is being paid for through their budget, but I'm sure it's just partially paid for, but it is also subsidized, so.
That is the gross cost of the meal and tips and everything. And attendees will be asked to pay $15. It's the same policy as all of the other events.
I just bring it up to clarification because I get asked sometimes and
Yeah,
thinking that's a
no.
lot of money for,
Right.
so anyway,
No,
thank you
and
for the
there have been
clarification.
some changes in, and discussions within the committee, so.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions with respect to any of the items in the consent agenda? If not, would you please vote? All those in favor? Opposed? Too late for in favor and too early for opposed?
Always surprise me, never
Okay,
surprise.
I'm gonna mark you down as supportive.
Thank you.
Okay, that then takes us to the reports, and we have report PDS 70. Councillor Dubanow, you have the resolution for that report.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that council approves a heritage permit application for the demolition of a rear yard garage at 221 Phipps Street as outlined in report PDS 70 2024 based on the application and supporting documentation contained in Appendix 1. And further, that council authorizes the Director of Planning and Development Services to issue a heritage permit reflecting the approved demolition of the rear yard garage at 221 Phipps Street. And further, that council directs a heritage permit be issued to the town's chief building official.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm just wondering if the rear yard garage at Phipps Street was not part of the heritage designation anyway, why all this had to go through? Why couldn't he just do it?
Is that something that you can respond to, Ms. Smith?
Through your worship to Councillor Noyes. You have to bring it to council regardless of whether or not it's a designated attribute.
If I can ask, so therefore, anything on the property, let's say property A, B, or C, whatever is designated as a heritage property, then anytime they do any work on that property, like for something that's not related to the heritage property, like the heritage designation itself, like the windows or the doors or the roof or whatever, they have to go through this process?
Through your worship to Councillor Noyes, only if it's a demolition. If it's an alteration and the attributes are not affected, then staff can screen those. And then if they need the Heritage Committee's involvement, they would bring them in. If they decide a permit is required, that's when it would go to council.
One last question. Is there any cost to the owner who's in regards to getting this permit or going through this process?
There's no cost.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Any other questions with respect to this report? All those in favor of the recommendation? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to new business and inquiries. And the first item, Councillor Christensen, just hold on a second. So we have an item on the agenda, 13.1, selection of chairs and vice chairs. And I'm wondering if we could have a motion to defer that to December the 2nd. Councillor Christensen, Councillor Noyes second. My understanding is that there's some discussions that still need to take place among members of council with respect to this issue, and so this will provide an opportunity if the motion to defer is passed. All those in favor of deferral to December the 2nd? That is unanimous. Okay, that then takes us to Councillor Christensen and the resolution regarding the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that council accepts the resignation of Maria Scott from the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, and that further that council directs staff to proceed with filling the vacancy in accordance with the procedural bylaw.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
Just wanted to comment on, Maria has been part of the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee for a very, very, very long time, and she was a very active member, and I wish her all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would concur.
If there are no other questions or comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Noyes, you have the next resolution about going into a closed session. Sorry. this is new business and inquiries, and I should be asking if there's anyone else that has any other new business or inquiries. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, perhaps we had a brief discussion at our Planning and Development Service Subcommittee meeting about the affordable housing CIP program that was coming, that we're hoping to have before council at the beginning of December. And during that meeting, there was some discussion about the region, perhaps funding and different priorities. And I'm just wondering, perhaps, through you, Your Worship, if maybe the CAO had an update or something along those lines about discussions with the region, and if we had any opportunity to look into cost sharing.
Yeah, my understanding is that's timely, and I understand CAO, you've had some recent discussions on that.
Thank you, through you to Councillor Dubanow. Yeah, the area CEOs met today. I had an opportunity to speak with Michelle Sergi, who's overseeing the portfolio there, and did advise her that, we were hoping that with our CIP program coming forward in its draft form and in bylaw, that we would be seeing some movement from the region to match funding at a minimum. I know there's been some complexity because there's 12 municipalities coming forward with differing views about the CIP programs and what they might be looking at in their own home communities, but we are hoping that they'll be able to take that back. And I guess from a regional perspective, if there is budget implications, we're hoping that the priority on affordable housing will follow with funding to that group to see some sort of matching program or some recommendation about funding for the affordable housing CIP matching dollars. Ms. Dilwaria may have some further updates from the planning group, but I think this has been, relatively new discussion.
Ms. Dilwaria, do you have anything further to add to that?
No, Your Worship, Mr. CEO has...
Aliens.
No, Your Worship, the CEO has covered everything, but we are working on our CIP program right now, and we would be taking... But we would be bringing forward a report to council about affordable housing CIP.
And when do you anticipate? Is that in December?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Your Worship, the funding of affordable housing and with the region being the service provider, I have some concerns about, Fort Erie taxpayers, if we were unilaterally to pick this up, it would be an affordable housing project, which theoretically could have residents from the entire region benefiting from tax dollars in Fort Erie. And I'm wondering if maybe, and I'll take your advice on this, Your Worship, if it might be worthwhile maybe, having council deal with a motion or perhaps something to kind of advocate for our position here that we feel the region needs to be a partner on this matter. And I'm just wondering if, I can give notice of motion later this evening and maybe we can deal with it. Yeah, however procedurally you feel is best, Your Worship.
So the region's Budget Review Committee is going to be dealing with the general levy on December the 5th, which is before our next council meeting. This is, and we're going to be receiving our affordable housing report, I think, around December the 2nd or thereabouts.
Worship,
Yeah, so, I think it would be helpful if we put down a marker that the region is aware of with respect to this. So I'd be prepared, because of the timing, to consider a motion this evening to request that the region develop a affordable housing CIP to partner with area municipalities.
I would be happy to move that, Your Worship, and I think the wording of that is actually quite appropriate.
What your wording would have been?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay. Did you get the wording, Mr. Clerk? Because if you didn't, we're in trouble.
I apologize, Your Worship. I was dealing with a technical issue over here, so I actually did not get the...
Okay, so I've indicated to Councillor Dubanow that I would consider, in view of the emergency nature of this because of the timing of the region's budget, because of the timing of our affordable housing, that I would consider a motion this evening to be in order that this council ask the region to develop an affordable housing CIP so that it could partner with local area municipalities on that initiative. I'd need a seconder for that. Councillor Noyes. So that's, if you've got that now.
I was just going to suggest, and I don't know if you're headed that direction, but we'll first vote on suspension of the rules to
Sure.
permit us to introduce that.
Sure, we can do that. So the motion to suspend the rules, Councillor Dubanow, I presume you're moving, and Councillor Noyes, you're prepared to second. Okay, so that's on the floor. Are there any questions or comments about suspending the rules for this matter? If not, all those in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. So then that would take us to the substantive motion that you've brought forward, Councillor Dubanow. Councillor Lewis, did you have any questions? Councillor Noyes has seconded it, so it's on the floor for any questions or comments. All those in favor? So that is carried. So, Mr. Clerk and CAO, we need to make sure that that gets to the region as soon as possible. There is a regional council meeting this Thursday, so it'd be helpful if we could get that to them so that it could be put on, and maybe I'll ask for it to be put on the agenda so that members of regional council will be aware of this, and hopefully other municipalities will support it. Okay, are there any other items of new business or inquiries, since I've now been reminded that that's where we are? If not, then Councillor Noyes, to you for the motion to go into closed session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Now, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow, that council does now go into closed session at 6:33 p.m. to consider the following: 14.1 closed meeting minutes, October 21st, 2024. 14.2 Bridgeburg Station Downtown Business Improvement Area Board of Management appointments pursuant to Section 239 in brackets 2 and brackets B of the Municipal Act 2001. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And 14.3 Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee membership pursuant to Section 239 in brackets 2 and brackets B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of going into closed session? That is unanimous. We're back in the council chamber, and Councillor Lewis, you have the resolution for us to rise and reconvene into open session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen that council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 6:47 p.m. with report 14.1 that council approves the closed session minutes of October the 21st, 2024, and 14.2 that council appoints Jade Galloway the Bridgeburg Station Downtown Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the term ending November the 14th, 2026, or until their successor is appointed, and 14.3 that council receives and supports the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee meeting minutes from October 24th, 2024, and staff is requested to proceed as directed in closed session.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to consideration of bylaws, and aside from bylaw 109/2024 relative to 45 Princess Street, which should be dealt with separately, are there any other bylaws anyone would like to be removed from the package? Councillor Noyes?
108/2024 and 110/2024.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Anyone else? Okay, then Councillor Christensen, you have the bylaw package, and for first and second reading, so bylaws 108, 109, 110 should be dealt with separately.
Thank you, Your Worship. So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that the bylaw package containing 107-2024 to designate 168 High Street as being of cultural heritage value or interest, 114-2024 to amend bylaw 142-06 expense allowance policy, 115-2024 to amend development charges for general services for the town of Fort Erie, 116-2024 to authorize applications for the cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes levied for the year 2024, 117-2024 to amend council rules of procedure bylaw 36-2026 as amended, council meeting schedule, 118-2024 to amend zoning bylaw 12990 as amended, 1023 Arthur Street are given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That package then as amended, those bylaws are on the floor for any questions or comments. There being none? Oh, sorry, Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor. In regards to 114/2024, to amend the bylaw 146 for the expense allowance policy, I'm just wondering if we should be adding in that, because it talks about overnight accommodations, but it doesn't talk about where. Or, for instance, like, does it have to be in Canada, or if I have an overnight accommodation in Japan or wherever? Should there not be a little bit more stipulation on where the overnight accommodation should be?
Mr. Clerk.
Or can't be, I guess.
Through your worship, this is to refund the councillor. So, I mean, depending on where the councillor books their accommodation, we would just be responsible for providing that refund. I don't know if you wanted more explicit language on what acceptable types of accommodation are. That's definitely something we could consider, but I think typically the members are responsible enough to either book their own, or obviously the staff would assist them with that.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate that. I'm just wondering, because we're trying to clarify to the expense allowance, that it doesn't really stipulate that it has to be in Canada. So if I was to look at this and I'd say, okay, I think I'd like to go to Florida for 2 nights or 3 nights to a really good conference, that there's nothing in here that says that I can't.
So it might be prudent to insert the words "in Canada" in 3.1, the first, in the preamble there. I think we understand least I think we understood it was going to be in Canada. Councillor Dubanow?
The only thing I would mention, and I get where Councillor Noyes is coming from and the concern with that. The only thing is we typically have either yourself or possibly another member of council would possibly attend the Great Lakes Cities Conference, and that alternates between Canada and the US every year. And that's the only conference I could think of that would draw an interest regularly from a member of council. Whether council wants to continue to approve that individually, that's council's prerogative. That's the only thing that I would just mention to Councillor Noyes, just because there may be conferences in the US that are very, related to what we do here within Fort Erie, just for a thought. I certainly, as much as I would love to go to Florida, unless it's related to the town of Fort Erie and something that would benefit us and our governance and promoting the community, it's certainly not something I would ever go for. But that was just a thought that I just wanted to share, Your Worship.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think it might be appropriate. That only happens every other year because every other year the Great Lakes Conference is in Canada. And it could be more expensive to go to a conference like FCM in British Columbia than to go to the Great Lakes Conference in Cleveland, as an example. But I'm thinking that maybe the limit of Canada might be appropriate, and then council would simply have to deal with the resolution if it comes forward. That's my thinking. Councillor Noyes, it's up to you. You've highlighted what you think may be an issue.
I would just add that, just so that there's some clarification, so someone's not disappointed. To be perfectly honest, I think if, I have never been, well, I've been on council for a number of years, and no one has ever taken advantage of the situation or kind of like used it to their own advantage in regards to, oh, I can go to one conference, I think I'll go to one in California, it doesn't say where, but no one's ever done that, but I'm just thinking that perhaps we just should add in Canada.
So that would come, then it would come at near the end of the first bullet, one conference and/or event requiring overnight accommodation in Canada. would be
Yes,
what
and
I
it's
would
my
say, yeah.
understanding too, that at any point, if there's an excellent conference that we all kind of agree that someone should attend and it doesn't happen to be in Canada, that they can always come to council
Right.
and ask for permission, just if it's a second conference that they want to go to, and, like, again,
That's always open to council.
it's always open, so.
Okay, so that's a proposed amendment. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Lewis? And clerk, you've got that? Okay, so is there any further discussion on that amendment to add the words in Canada? All those in favor? Okay, so that is carried. Did you have any further questions or comments, Councillor Noyes?
Not on that one, but on 15, 2024, about the amending development charges for general, oh, I think I'm wrong on that one. Okay, this is the one where we're going to start adding for studies. That's the right report, right?
Right.
My computer keeps turning off, so it doesn't like me today.
That's what this is about, yes.
Okay, so my concern is that we raised development charges not that long ago, considerably. I think, about 10 months ago? And we raised them considerably because of the changes from the Ontario government in regards to what we could charge for, what we couldn't charge for, et cetera, et cetera. But the government was supposed to come and make us whole at some point, but I think some of that funding has come through, and so I'm just wondering, what I'm saying is that we've raised it then because we didn't know if the government was going to come through with the funding that they kind of loosely talked about making us whole again. So we raised the development charges in case they didn't. They did. We didn't lower the development charges, and so now we want to raise them again because now the government says you can now charge for studies.
So that's not completely accurate. Your recitation of the facts isn't completely accurate. What the government has done is they have changed their position with respect to what can be included in development charges. The study that we and Mr. Jansen, you can confirm this, but the study that we had commissioned and was the basis of our revisions to our development charges didn't include these things which are now being proposed to be included. So, and the government never really did make anybody whole on anything. They didn't give us any money. They just changed their policies as to what we could ask for in terms of development charges. Mr. Jansen, can you maybe clarify if there's anything I didn't get quite accurate on that?
Thank you. Yes, you're correct. We did, we have now changed the rates a couple times this year due to provincial legislative changes. So the one, of course, was the rate itself in March. We then did, the initial legislative change was to remove the mandatory phase-in and then the studies. So we did not receive any making of whole amounts from the province. So this is their attempt to rectify some of that. So the adding of studies is something that was consistent across all of Ontario for all municipalities. So we were given a window until December to make those changes to any our existing studies. So this is something that's being done widely in Ontario as well. The Niagara Region did include studies for theirs as well.
Councillor Noyes?
So how, like I'm looking at the chart here, the Schedule A, so what's the change from what we are currently doing to what this report recommends? Like, what's the difference, dollars and cents?
Yeah, Mr. Jansen?
Yeah, so the only amount that really is new on this Schedule A is the last line, development-related studies. So for the single detached and semi-detached dwellings, that's $1,872. The report that came forward to council back at the beginning of November described the change as a 5% increase to the overall rate for residential and approximately 6% for non-res.
Okay, so in this case, this is across the board. So is it, like, is it across the board?
What do you mean across the board?
Let's say there's no studies required that the municipality has to take part in. Like, we're happy with everything's there.
So, well, that's not exactly how it works. Can you explain that, Mr. Jansen?
I mean, it's certainly possible that a municipality wouldn't have studies, but in our case, we did identify and list all of those with the report. The DC study itself is covered by the development charges, the studies line, but we would have a lot of larger master plans and so on that would be coming up that council will see both through the budget on with the water wastewater. We have water and wastewater studies, for example, that both cost in the neighborhood of $250,000 each that this would cover. We also have secondary plans that we've identified that are also very expensive. So a lot of expensive studies that this helps to raise funds towards.
So the $1,872 is based on a series of studies that are anticipated are going to be required in order to accommodate the growth. And then that's part of our development charges study. And so that can be referred to, and that all broken down works out to $1,872 per single family dwelling.
I think I get that, Mayor. My concern is that there are some circumstances where there's not going to be a need for the studies. But we're kind of throwing everybody into the same pot and saying, okay, across the board, this is what we're going to charge you. So again, that's where, you know, like when you're putting up a house, it's going to cost you, whether it's a 500 square foot house or a 2,000 square foot house, you're still going to pay the same. A house is a house is a house. And that's where I'm getting this again, is that we're going to add again another $1,800 to someone who's building a house, basically.
Well, I think you need to look at it this way. If the current position of the provincial government existed when we were doing our development study at the end of last year and into the beginning of this year, these are charges that would have been included in that development charges study. And this would have been the amount that we would have charged. The government wouldn't allow us to do that when we were doing that work. Now they've changed their position. They said, okay, now you can consider these for development charge purposes. We've done the work. The consultant has done the work. This is the information that's been provided, and these are the numbers that relate to that. So this is really simply a rectification of something that we weren't previously allowed to do. The provincial government now says we can do. And as Mr. Jansen has said, most municipalities will be taking advantage of this because otherwise it's the general taxpayer that will be paying the cost of those studies.
And Mayor, I can appreciate that. I'm just seeing that this is, again, another development charge over charges, that an increase again over an increase that we had already. That was significant not that long ago. And again, a house is a house is a house. So I think there's people that are, basically, it's just, we keep talking about affordable housing, but we just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding to the ledger. Does somebody have to pay for it? Absolutely. But again, it's, I guess my question, I didn't have a chance to talk to Jonathan earlier today, but I'm just curious, what were our development charges per, let's say, a year ago to what they're, now we add this to it, what's the difference in the dollar amount for development charges?
Mr. Jansen, do you know?
You're testing my memory from when we first brought that forward, December of last year. We did do some comparatives before they were approved and looked at the overall increase. I believe it was in the 25 to 35% increase at the time, but I would have to go back to check. It is a report that's still online.
Councillor Noyes?
Okay, so we've done it with between 25 to 35%. We've already increased it in the last 12 months. Now we're adding another $1,800 to that. So what percentage with the $1,800? Let's say for argument's sake, we increased it 30% between the two numbers in the past 12 months. So now we're going to add another $1,800 to that. So what would the percentage of increase be then?
Mr. Jansen, do you have that?
I do not.
And I can appreciate I didn't give him a heads up. I didn't have a chance to go through it all. Okay, I just think our development charges are significantly too high, and we've just increased them way too much this year. I'm not going to be supporting this one.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to third and final reading for the revised or amended bylaw package? If not, Councillor Lewis, it's the amended bylaw package, so all bylaws except 108, 109, and 110. We could take 115 out now as well. You want to deal with it separately for third and final reading? Sure.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaws 107, 114, and 115.
No, not 115. We're going to deal with
sorry,
that separately.
we took out
too.
115, 116, 117, 2020, and 118, 2024, inclusive, are given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so let's deal with 115 for third and final reading because we've already done first and second reading. So could you put that on the floor, Councillor Lewis?
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaw number 115 are given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and the clerk and the corporate seal affixed.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, Councillor Christensen, we're going to go back to you and we're going to deal with these bylaws separately. So the first one is 108.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw 108, 2024 to designate 400 Holloway Bay Road South as being of cultural heritage value or interest is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That's on the floor then for questions or comments. Councillor Noyes?
Do we know if 400 Holloway Bay Road wants this designation or not?
We received an email from Ms. Smith earlier today indicating that the owner has not been responsive to registered mail. Other letters have been picked up. There's been no email or phone number available on file. Council directed staff to visit the property, but the owner resides outside the country, and so no one was home at the time to receive any information. So we don't know what the owner's position is.
Okay.
I think that's a fair statement, Ms. Smith.
So if I can ask a question then, so at no point did the owner of this property say yay or nay, right from the beginning till now?
Ms. Smith, would you come forward?
Through your worship to Councillor Noyes, the owner has not made any contact with the town to say yes or no.
So the way I understand it, if we designate this property without really knowing what the owner's position is on it, regardless of how hard we tried, whatever, it is a rental, not a rental, it is a seasonal property, so we may just be hitting them at the wrong time. So if we designate this today without knowing his or her position on this, they have, 30 days to appeal or something?
Ms. Smith, what is the process if the bylaws pass this evening?
Through your worship to Councillor Noyes, they do have 30 days to appeal.
Okay, so if we can't get a hold of them to find out whether they're yay or nay, how are they gonna know that they have 30 days to appeal if they don't like council's position?
Through your worship to Councillor Noyes, the only method of contact we have right now is registered mail. So they will be given registered mail. I will send a letter notifying them before I put it in the newspaper. I'll be able to see if that registered letter was collected. I have been giving individuals deadlines to contact me too prior. If it is collected and they are not contacting, then the notice will go in the paper and they will get registered mail again.
So I'm just following the ball here. So we designated tonight, they have 30 days. They're still unresponsive. We don't know why. They could be in a nursing home, they could be someplace else, and they're just not getting the letters or whatever. So they don't know, so we designate it, and they don't know that we've designated it. The 30 days has come and gone. They happen to come back next summer and say, what? What can they do then? Anything?
Through your worship to Councillor Noyes, they would have the opportunity, I believe, under the Act to repeal the designation bylaw.
Okay. Thank you for that. My other concern is, I'm not going to support any, I've said this before, any designation that we do not have the owner's buy-in, because I think it's going to cost us a ton of money if they don't want to do it. And we've gone to, we have to go to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I'm looking at the designation itself and the description. And I would think, and I'm not an expert on this by any means, but the report itself says the property does not have any contextual value because it is physically, functionally, visually, or historically linked to its surroundings. The answer is no, it's not. And the property has contextual value because it is a landmark. The answer is no, it's not. And that's the study. But then you go down to the relationship of heritage attributes to the cultural heritage values, and it contradicts what the earlier one said, because it says repeatedly in this report that the location along Holloway Bay Road South, proximity to Lake Erie in a wooded area, that makes it a heritage attribute. And then it repeats that again. So I'm not sure why this property is even being considered. The reason being that it's on a road and it's a wooded area and it's close to the beach and it's old. And it's Queen Anne, but there's many, many houses that are Queen Anne architect. I don't get it. So I'm not going to support this because I think number one, we'll lose if it's taken to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I honestly don't think this particular property, when you look at it, the reasons that they're giving, it's close to the beach, it's on a wooded area, those are attributes. I don't get it.
Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And I'm just wondering if Ms. Smith sat down, but I do have a question for her. I'm sorry, if I may, Your Worship,
Yeah,
through
of
you.
course.
I just want to double check, because we did receive like an email communication with some updates regarding this. So we can confirm that registered letters have been sent to the owner, and we have confirmation that they have been picked up.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Dubanow, that is correct.
So if I may continue, Your Worship, so we do know that the owner has been made aware, and that we do have confirmation that they have picked these letters up. So my thought on this, and I understand where Councillor Noyes is going, and I'll be honest, there's another one on the agenda tonight that I have more reservations about, because we've gotten a flat-out no, and understanding what I know from the committee and the categories, I'm more willing to let one of them go. But I'll share my thoughts on this. So I'm a property owner. I own a house in the town of Fort Erie, like so many others do. And I'll tell you this, if I received a registered letter that I had to sign for, that confirmed receipt of a letter saying that the designation or the usage or some aspect of my property was being proposed to change by municipal council, I'll tell you this, if I didn't agree with it, I would be on the phone with my councillor right away saying, what the heck is going on? Or at least asking questions to find out how it affects me. You know, you can only ask so many times for an answer, and if someone ignores you, if someone's ignoring you, I know some individuals may take that as an implied no. I'm of the opinion that it is an implied yes, because you've been given plenty of opportunity to voice your concerns, to raise them with municipal council or town staff. You haven't gotten up and bothered. And we know that they have received the letters. We know this. The registered letters have been signed for, picked up, and for whatever reason, they have made the decision to not even reach out to town staff, not even to give town staff the consideration to say one way or another whether they're supportive or whether they're not. I'm a little bothered by that. And, you know, not to sound too harsh here, Your Worship, but if you're not at least willing to do that, then I'm going to make the decision tonight, assuming that you're good with this, because you haven't have made an objection. You've had plenty of opportunity. We have spent countless resources of staff and even money to send these registered letters out. They haven't bothered to contact us, so you know what, I'm supporting this, because they have not expressed to me one way or another, and because they have not expressed a desire, I am going to fall back on the other things that we have that have expressed a desire, which is our Heritage Committee and our strategic plan that says that we are working to preserve heritage properties in town. And I'm gonna say this for everyone listening tonight and everything else going on. If you have a property that is going to be altered or changed, whether it is a heritage designation, zoning, whatever else, if you receive a registered letter from this town asking you for input, if you have a problem with it, you better say so. Because if we do not hear from you one way or another, we, as councillors, have to use the best information we have available, and that's going to be our staff, our advisory committees, and others who give us recommendations. If we can't get a recommendation from the property owner, I'm not going to assume no. For all I know, they're good with this. So I'm going to fall back, and I'm going to be supporting this. When we come up to the other one, I'll have some comments about that too, Your Worship, but I will be supporting this, because if you can't be bothered to respond, I mean, come on. Like, anyway, thank you, Your Worship.
Okay. Anyone else? You may sit down, Ms. Smith. All right, so we're now going to, so that was first and second reading. Councillor Noyes?
Okay, and I can appreciate Councillor Dubanow's comments on that, but again, we don't know what we don't know. And the owner may not know what he doesn't know. But the other thing too, we're talking about taxpayers' dollars here, that we're going to give them a tax, we're going to subsidize their taxes, which is taxpayers' dollars. We're going to allow them to make renovations to their home if it's related to the attributes up to what, $10,000 every 5 years, or $5,000 up to $10,000, whichever. And this is a house that none of us are ever going to see, because on a secluded secondary road off of Holloway Bay Road. So how anybody even found this house
I've seen it.
is a okay, so you've seen it, but if we should count, well, I guess you can't really count, I'm being facetious here. I don't think there's probably I don't think there's hardly, I can't even put a number on it. It's a secluded house on a secondary road on Holloway Bay Road at the end of the town of Fort Erie. We won't know if they do anything to it or not. I don't know why we're spending taxpayers' money to designate this house when we don't even know if they want it designated. I don't know why we can't defer it until it's a seasonal property, wait till the summer when they're back. Hopefully then, I don't know, I just don't know why.
With all respect, we don't know that. Registered. Anyone else? Councillor McDermott?
I'm a little confused by Councillor Noyes on this one because the last one, 107-2024, you voted for. And that was clearly where the person had said they didn't want it. So I'm not so, I tend to agree with Councillor Dubanow on this after numerous letters from the town. And if they weren't picked up, I might think different about it. But I think we have to move on with this. You know, I'm not fussy on being told what to do either. But if it's, you know, if you don't, you either have the money or you don't, right? So, I mean, I just find that this one here kind of drives me nuts because we're always talking about, well, are we trying to notify these people? Well, it looks like we have been quite a bit. So, and if they're getting their mail, I think we have to assume that they, you know, somebody responsible has picked that up and they have it in their house somewhere. And maybe they just don't feel that they should have to respond to it, knowing maybe the council might not designate them. So that's my thought.
Anyone else? Okay, Councillor Noyes, you've already spoken twice.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Councillor McDermott about 107, why my position is different for that.
Point of order.
It's an easy one, is because that person is now in agreement with it. I actually had a talk with Anamika today, is in agreement with it because the property that surrounds it is no longer included in the designation, which was the owner's issue in the first place. So that's why.
Okay, so let's go to third and final reading. Councillor Lewis, this is bylaw 108.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw 108 is given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal affixed.
Okay, so that bylaw is on the floor. I think we've had enough comments, although if there's other, I'm happy to hear them. Otherwise, I'm going to vote. Councillor McDermott, I'm going to vote now, bylaw 108, third and final reading. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that is carried. So that takes us then, Councillor Christensen, to bylaw 109, and this is a bylaw that staff has requested be deferred. And Ms. Dawaria, was there a date that we wanted to defer this to, the next regular council meeting?
Your Worship, I would like to ask Ms. Smith about it because she's with the one who's been having discussions with the owner of the property.
So the property, this one, we only have until November 29th to bring the bylaw through. If we don't bring it through by then, it won't fall off the register, but the process does have to restart again. So a recommendation report will have to be brought back through. Notice of intention to designate will have to go back in the newspaper. It will be the process from the start. I'm meeting with the property owners tomorrow afternoon, and then whatever we discuss will have to go back to the Heritage Committee. Their next meeting is this Wednesday, so I can probably put it on the agenda for then, but I'm thinking that the recommendation report won't be able to be brought through till January.
So if you are successful in reaching agreement with Mr. Spires, the owner of the property. And you said that's tomorrow?
Yes.
And if the Heritage Committee deals with it on Wednesday and is agreeable, then unless the bylaw is passed before November the 27th, did you say?
November 29th.
November 29th, you have to basically start all over.
That's correct.
Okay. And we have a meeting scheduled, we have a budget meeting November the 25th, which is next Monday. So I would suggest that if you are able to get those ducks lined up, that you let the clerk know, because we could have a special council meeting to deal specifically with this bylaw. If not, well then, I guess we'll have to go through the process. But it sounds like you're very close to coming to some agreement with the owner.
Yes, I believe he's interested. He just would like to amend the attributes slightly and just make the wording a little more specific.
Okay. So, thank you very much. So before we, so it's not on, it's technically not on the floor. So let's do first and second, let's do a first and second reading, get it on the floor, and then we can defer it, but I'll let Councillor Dubanow make a comment. So, Councillor Christensen?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that the bylaw 109/2024 to designate 45 Princess Street as being of cultural heritage value or interest is given first and second reading.
Okay, so ordinarily we would vote on this without debate. Councillor Dubanow, you wanted to make a comment?
Oh, yeah, Your Worship, and we could vote first. It's fine. It's just, this is an example of, based on the email that we got from staff, that this is a good example of someone who did follow up. They didn't, see it right away, but, once they did actually get the information, they made a point of contacting staff, and it shows to me the system is working, that we're trying to find consensus, and we're trying to find ways to make this work together, and I hope we do. It's a beautiful property. And I just wanted to point that out relative to 400 Holloway Bay, where we make the attempt, we don't hear anything.
Okay.
I know, Your Worship. I'm out of order there. I apologize. This is a good example of the system working, and that was my comment, Your Worship. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you
So-
for catching me.
Okay, so I'm going to entertain a motion to defer, and the date will be the next regular meeting of council, which is December the, so the next regular council meeting is December the what? It's December the 16th, or, so deferred to December, the next regular council meeting on December the 16th, or such earlier date as may be available for a council meeting. So can I have a mover for that? Doesn't matter if you speak.
I'll move that, Your Worship.
Okay, Councillor Dubanow, a seconder. Councillor Christensen. Okay, so that's non-debatable. We're putting this over to December the 16th or earlier if possible. Well, we're in November. This is now November the 18th. The next regular council meeting is December the 16th. I beg your pardon?
I thought the deadline was November 29th.
We have to have a date to defer it to. If the discussions don't come to any conclusion, then this matter is going to have to start over again. Okay? All right, all those in favor of deferring this to December 16th or such earlier date if possible? Okay, so that is carried. That then takes us, there's no need for third and final reading. So that then takes us to bylaw 110. Councillor Christensen, could you do first and second reading on that?
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw 110/2024 to designate 487 Niagara Boulevard as being of cultural heritage value or interest be given first and second reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That bylaw is on the floor. And Councillor Noyes, for your, you may not have gotten the email, but we were advised by staff this afternoon that the owner of the property was contacted and spoken to on November the 7th and confirmed he is agreeable to the designation. That's correct, Ms. Smith? Okay. All right, so that bylaw is on the floor for any questions or comments. If there are none, Councillor Lewis, third and final reading, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaw number 110, that was 110,
110,
right?
yes.
110, be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. That then takes us to the affirmatory bylaw. Councillor Noyes, you have that.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that bylaw number 119, 2024, to confirm the action of council at its council and committee meeting held on November 4th, 2024, and its council meeting held on November 18th, 2024, is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor McDermott, third and final reading.
Yes, moved by myself, Your Worship, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that bylaw 119, 2024 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Any meetings anyone wishes to announce? Councillor Dubanow and then Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. The Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee is going to have a meeting this Wednesday, so that will be, November 20th, here at Town Hall at 1 p.m. I just don't know what conference room, typically in conference room 1, but it'll be based on availability.
Okay. Councillor Noyes.
There's a meeting tomorrow at the Humane Society of Greater Niagara. I think it's at their 4th Avenue location. I'm going to be hopefully attending it by Zoom, and that's at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And there's also a Fort Erie non-for-profit housing meeting on Wednesday at 9 at Betty's.
I'm sorry, that was Wednesday? At, what time did you say? Noon?
9.
9 a.m.? Okay. Councillor Dubanow, you had another meeting?
Yeah, it's just something to mention. I will be at the Crescent Park Tim Hortons tomorrow at 1 o'clock for Smile Cookies for community living of Fort Erie. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, cool.
I think.
I was there earlier today and had the opportunity to make some more Smile Cookies. I have to say that I'm not nearly as proficient as the CAO, who I'm thinking is looking at that as a second career. So yeah, that's a great cause.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, so I'll be out there if anyone wants to see me.
Okay, perfect. Any, Councillor Christensen?
Tomorrow at 4:30, the Fort Erie Public Library Board is meeting at the Centennial Branch of the library.
Anyone else? If not, then Councillor Lewis, you win the pool. Councillor Dubanow?
Yeah, he's bang on too. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that council adjourns at 7:30 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on December 16th, 2024.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you all.